Let me show you my countryside through these old headlights. We can take this road as far as you want to go. I'll show you how a country mile can take us all night. Feeling higher than a bull's tail up an old dirt road. I ain't gonna run or hide. We can let the fire burn wild. That's just my countryside.
Hey you guys, good morning. Welcome back. Whew, yesterday I was totally not feeling very well. I had a sore throat, scratchy throat. My nose was like draining out the yang. A little bit of the ear funk going on, and my eyes were still a little bit red today, but they were incredibly like swollen. I think it's the allergies. My other son has it too, which he normally doesn't have allergies, so that's why I'm thinking it might be a cold. But anyhow, y'all are dealing with the funk. The struggle's real. So anyway, yesterday I went ahead and got a few sourdough recipes started. I actually started and finished my sourdough loaf that by the time this goes out, you will have seen it posted last week. So check that out if you missed it. It is a staple around here. I make it every single week, and then I slice it up and then put it in a container, and the boys just kind of pick and eat off of that throughout the week. I make 2 loaves. So then I went ahead and prepped the donuts, which I'll show you in another video. And then I also prepped the sourdough round artisan loaves. So that's what we're going to go over today. I'll show you a bit of the clips that I took from yesterday that goes through some of the steps in the beginning to get to where we're at today, and I'll put that right here. Hey friends, let's get started. We are going to be combining our all-purpose flour and our water as well as the starter. So we're going to be doing the 325 grams of water, but I am doubling, so I will be doing 650, as well as the 100 grams of starter. Again, I'm doubling, so I will be doing the 200 grams instead of the 100 that the recipe calls for. So I am using a scale here, and I went a little bit over, and so what I'm going to do is just kind of scrape what's on the top there and put it back in the jar. And then once my water is done warming up a bit, then I will go ahead and combine that as well. And I am resetting the scale there, and again, I will not be doing the 325 grams of water. I'll be doing the 650, but if you're just doing a single loaf, definitely do the 325 grams that the recipe calls for. So now I'm going to be adding the salt, and the recipe calls for 10 grams, and which is about 2 teaspoons, and I'll be doing 20 grams of salt, or 4 teaspoons. And I do use the Redmond's salt from Azure Standard. I can leave that in the description below. And I have a referral link, so if you're interested in becoming a member, you can definitely use that, and then you actually save, as well as saves me a few dollars too. So here we're going to be adding our flour. It calls for 475 grams of all-purpose flour, which is about 3.5 cups. Again, I'm doubling, so I will be doing about 7 cups of flour here. So now you're just going to want to mix it, and you can do this by hand. You can also use a wooden spoon, which the recipe mentions here. But I usually will be using a dough hook. You'll see me use that a lot. It definitely helps to not overmix, but just gets things well incorporated. And then I will go ahead and do a little bit of hand mixing if necessary. So you're just kind of looking to incorporate those ingredients, and then you're going to cover it, and you can use a beeswax cover as well. And you're going to cover it for about 30 minutes and set a timer, and then you're going to go through and do your stretch and folds. Make sure that you get your hands a little bit wet so that the dough doesn't stick as easy to your hands. And you're going to go through and do your stretch and fold the one, turn it a quarter of the ways, do another, turn again, and do your third one, and then your last and final fourth stretch and fold. And think of it kind of like a clock, like you're doing 12 to 3, you're doing 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12. And you're going to cover it for another 30 minutes. Once that 30 minutes is up, you're going to do the same exact thing as you did before, getting the hands wet and going through and doing your stretch and folds. And what this does is it actually helps the gluten to form, and that's what you want in order to build a amazing sourdough loaf. So once you've done your fourth quarter there, then you're going to go ahead and cover it again for another 30 minutes, and then you're going to do it one last time. So 3 sets of stretch and folds, 30 minutes apart, give or take. Sometimes I'm not always there right when the timer goes off, but in general it's about 30 minutes, and you're going to do 3 sets of those stretch and folds. Again, making sure that you go through and turn it a quarter of the ways and do all 4 quarters. So that is it there. That is our third series of stretch and folds, and we're going to go ahead and cover it. And while it's covered, I go ahead and spray with avocado spray a clean glass bowl. You can also use another stainless steel bowl. Getting my hands wet, and then I'm just going to transfer that dough into that glass dish. And once that dough is transferred into the dish, we will set a timer, making sure that we cover it again, and we're going to set our timer for about 6 hours. So during this 6 hours, it's called a bulk ferment, and you're going to want to do it in a warm place until it has doubled in size. In here, I'm just making sure that I get every last bit of that dough because, I mean, obviously you want to get your money's worth, right? So here I'm just bringing all the edges together and getting it in a nice formed ball there, tucking the sides under, and then we're going to go ahead and get it covered and do that bulk fermentation. So that was step 4 of the stretch and fold part of the directions if you're following along here with us. And to get it in a warm spot, I put it in my oven, and then I'll usually go ahead and leave the light on. That light naturally provides the warmth. Here we are setting our timer, and then now we're going to go through and we are going to flour our banneton baskets, making sure that they're nice and coated. So I will mention on the step 4 of the stretch and fold, it says to do the bulk fermentation for 6 to 12 hours. I typically will do it about 6 hours, but if I am busy doing other things or if we're gone for the day, then I'll definitely go for that 12 hours. I wouldn't go any more than that, or you will have a pretty sourdough loaf, but which the boys don't actually like. But if you're into more sourdough, then that 12-hour mark is no problem. So here it is after the 6-hour fermentation, and you can see that it has definitely doubled in size, if not more than double. And it's pretty squiggly there, and I do not flour the surface because you want some of that tension that the dough is going to create against that counter to shape yours into the balls before you stick it in the banneton. So we're on step 1 of the shaping, and again, we're just getting all that dough out of there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little bit of flour so that it doesn't stick to my hands so much, and then I will go through and cut that in half after I kind of bring it together a bit here. And I always use these bench scrapers is what they're called, or this one's actually a pastry cutter, but they do sell bench scrapers and that helps to cut the dough. And they sell really big ones, or they just sell the regular standard ones as well. So here I am just getting all the edges together, and I'm on step 3 of the recipe if you're following along. And we're gonna go ahead and just get it together, get all the edges rounded up to the center, and then we're gonna use that counter to create some tension with our dough, getting it into that nice round ball. And once it's formed into that ball, we'll go ahead and we will transfer it to our Banneton basket. And then we will go ahead and cover it with a plastic wrap bag with the seam side up. So wherever all your seam comes together at the bottom of that roll there, you're going to want to make sure that that is facing upwards when you transfer it to your Banneton basket. And we flipped it. So that's exactly what you want. And you can do this kind of braided little come together seam here just to make sure everything's tightened up. And we're going to do that same thing for loaf number 2. This is seriously the easiest thing, and I think that we totally can make things bigger in our minds than what they really are. And I love how these directions just really streamline it. I love how it's broken up into the stretch and folds and the shaping and then the baking. Just kind of makes it to where it's easier to read and to process. And you guys, seriously, it is so squishy and the dough is so bouncy, and I just couldn't even help it. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and just grab some regular standard grocery bags. We're going to go ahead and put each Banneton in a grocery bag and just tie it off on the ends. And then we're going to let that rest in the refrigerator for 12 to 15 hours. And again, if you do longer than that, it's okay. You may have a little bit more of a sour loaf, but that's perfectly fine if you like that sourdough. So you saw some of that clip on the process of getting to where we're at now. I'm gonna get the recipe here. This is the beginner sourdough bread from Farmhouse on Boone. So you can head to their website. I'll leave the link down below here and head to her website. Her name's Lisa. She comes up with lots of different great recipes. So check out her website. I'll leave it below. We basically went through and now the bread is in the fridge. It proofed overnight in the fridge. And so now we're going to go ahead and get it shaped and then set into our Dutch oven to cook. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to do, we're going to take out our dehydrating sourdough. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick the Dutch oven. I'm gonna go ahead and stick the Dutch oven into the oven, and then we're gonna heat it to 500. And I know that sounds insane, but 500, we're gonna get that nice and hot. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get the dough out of the fridge here, and then we're gonna set it out. I made 2 loaves. We're only going to get one ready because I want the other one to stay cold up until the point that I'm ready to go ahead and start scoring it. You can do like a beautiful design. I really have not gotten too far into all of that, so if you're great at designs, go ahead and you can do your design on it. But we're gonna go ahead and get that out and get it prepped. Okay, so we left it in the fridge overnight within this bag. And then we're gonna get ready and turn it over onto our floured surface here. Okay, so I got a parchment paper here. I got my flour. I'm going to dust it with the flour. Okay, and then you're gonna turn your bread dough. You can see it's still pretty doughy. Over onto your parchment. And then we're gonna go ahead and score it. I typically will do one big line on this edge here, kind of like a half a moon. And then I'll just do, get off of there. Little decorative score here. Again, I don't get into all different designs. I just do like what I know and then call it a day. So I'm more of a no fuss. So once that Dutch oven is preheated, we'll go ahead and dunk this down in and I'll show you guys that process. So right now the boys are outside doing weeding. This one's taking a break on his bed. He's got one of the, so you're doing the pumpkin bed, aren't you? Yeah. So he's doing the pumpkin bed. The other boys are doing theirs. His along the edges has quite a bit because I don't think it was thoroughly done quite as well last week. So he's gonna take a break and then head back out. I do wanna kind of show you, I get a lot of questions about like routine and how we're able to do all of the things and kind of transition the boys throughout the day. So I wanted to show you just some of our basic fundamental systems that we have in place here as we do homesteading, homeschooling, homemaking, and gardening, all the things. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys some of that. So mind you, we're actually taking a break from our typical school days. But when we are doing curriculum and when we are getting more diligent about our routine, this is something that has been key for us within our days and keeping us on track, eliminating some of the questions, some of the unknowns. It just puts a lot more like predictability within the day so that the boys know what to kind of prepare for energetically. They can get their spirits in the right place and really just mentally engage a lot better than just kind of sporadically going throughout the day. Okay, so here's our morning routine. We wake up, get dressed, change our clothes, brush our teeth, unload the dishwasher and load it, drink, eat breakfast, do dishes, cats, chickens, dogs go potty, prayer, devotional, and pledge, and then we start our schoolwork. So down here with the school routine, we have the read aloud and listen to gather around family lesson sheets. We have their independent worksheets that they start to work on after that. We do reading, the unit videos to expand and explore. We pick up the classroom, do our chores, and then we have lunch. Afternoon routine is we have free time, nature study, and math. This was downtime, and then we replaced it with history. And then create and sharpen skills and explore. So if they're like into Legos, if they're into computer editing, photography, if they are into nature, then they go ahead and go outside and explore that way. They like to dig up rocks and do geology. Quick clean of the house, garden task, and animal husbandry if any animals need checked on during the day. We set the table, have drinks, trays, silverware, and then we eat dinner, do dishes, and clean up. Next here for the evening, and we've been pushing this a little bit later since it is getting lighter later in the day. So garden and animal chores, some downtime, and then we do chickens tucked in and cats in the building, clean up the rooms, brush teeth and clean up bathroom, and then prayers and reading, lights out by 10 p.m. Typically, we'll even have the little ones go to bed at 9:30, and then some of the bigs get to stay up just a little bit later. So that gives you kind of a breakdown of our typical routine. Now, when garden season kicked off, we are no longer doing our typical routine. We'll have, in general, some of like the free time and the downtime and the chores and the morning chores, a lot of that stuff will stay. But as far as like the schoolwork, we are going to continue doing math and do history here and there, as well as maybe some science stuff. But in general, we're not doing our like gather around curriculum per se. So some of that is changing now that garden season has kicked off, which we're super excited about. And we just kind of want to like live life a little bit more and do more like farm schooling, unschooling, field trips, that sort of thing. So yeah, so that gives you a breakdown. And then in another video, I'll go ahead and do our chore chart. Each boy has a chore chart that they do each day. And there's probably about 3 to 4 chores on there that does not include anything to do with animals and does not have anything to do with the dishes, which is another aspect that I have a calendar for. So anyways, they're just basic fundamental systems that I feel are completely necessary for, number 1, any farm, and number 2, any homeschooling family, and number 3, any families that have more than, I would say, 2 to 3, I would say definitely 3 to 4 kids. You really need those systems just to kind of save your energy and save your voice. And the more that you can minimize your voice, I feel like the more that your kids will listen, because they will take what you're saying more seriously instead of being a broken record. So anyways, that is what helps us, and we'll get back to our sourdough. Okay friends, so the oven is almost heated to the 500. I am going to now take my dehydrated sourdough starter that I did yesterday, and we're gonna process it in here. This is the first time doing it, so we'll see how this works. And then we're gonna go ahead and just put it in a jar. And this is what I'm going to be taking and selling. I'll do some online, and then I'll probably add it to the Aruka Restorative Holistics website that we have. And then I'll also be bringing it to the Azure Standard drop that we have, where we're doing a pop-up market. So let's see how this works. Okay, so it'll cool off, it's okay. Okay, so let's stick this in here.
Why is it a in the shed?
Because I dehydrated it.
It would have been like gushy, right?
Yeah, would have been dough like that. So let's go ahead and put this on. Let's see. Let me put this on here. Okay. And there we have dehydrated sourdough. So what I'm going to do just to test it is I am going to rehydrate some of this and see how it works. I'll keep you guys updated on that, and we'll go from there.
Mommy, can I do a puzzle?
Hmm?
Can I do a puzzle? Can I do a puzzle?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so our oven is at 500, so we're gonna go ahead and take the Dutch oven out. Okay, so we're gonna take the lid off, and I'm gonna set these right on the lid so I don't grab it and forget that it's hot. Put that down in there. So just like that. I'm gonna put the lid back on. And it's fine if your paper sticks out a little bit. Okay, got it in the oven. And then we're gonna set a timer for 20 minutes. And then after that time, we're gonna reduce the heat to 475, and then we'll cook it for about 15 minutes additional. Yeah. All right, friends, that first timer is up. I'm gonna take this lid off. I'm gonna leave it in there and do 15 minutes. Okay, I went ahead and added just a little bit more flour and water because I want a larger batch. I forgot that I was gonna make more of the sourdough dehydrated starter. So I do want kind of a lot. There we go. So it's about halfway full, maybe a little bit more than halfway full. And we're gonna let that rise, and then we'll make more of that dehydrated starter. There we go. All right, friends, so that one loaf is almost done. I'm gonna prep this second one. I just took it out of the fridge, and I'm just dusting the parchment paper. We're going to turn it over. We're gonna do our scoring. Now this one was in a kind of like an oval Banneton basket, but when we bake it, it really just goes back to the round loaf. So we'll score that along the side. Do our little design thing. And here's how I score it. One big on the side there, and then almost looks like wheat on the other side. All right, so let's get that one. The timer just went off. Okay, good. So that is it there. We're gonna get this back to 500 for the other loaf. And there's our loaf there. Got a little toasty, which is okay. There it is. Okay, so now we're gonna get this other loaf here into the Dutch oven that's hot. Remember it's already been preheated. So stick that in there. The oven is ready, and that lid is still gonna be hot, so remember to get your gloves on. Pop it back in. Okay. 500 degrees for 20 minutes, and we're good. Okay. All right, friends, that's it for the second one. We're gonna put that down there, and then we're gonna take it out. Ooh, carefully. Peyton, you're cooking right next to paper. Oh, so you cannot do that. You cannot cook next to paper. Okay. So, excuse me. There we go. Cut it out. Don't touch this. Okay. Hot, 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 hot. And there we have it. Beautiful. All right, friends, we went ahead and cut into it, and I'm just getting it ready for the boys to eat it for lunch. All right, friends, that's gonna be it for us today. We're gonna go ahead and get lunch served up. Peyton made some mac and cheese, always a staple around here. We're gonna go ahead and do this, and then I'm gonna start the donut recipe that I had started yesterday, and we're gonna get it finished out today. So be watching for that video. That'll be coming out soon, and we will catch you on the next video. Bye.